forecast for the week of August 20th, 2023. Just a quick reminder that on Saturday, August 26th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, I'm going to be doing the monthly forecast live, and you're welcome to join if you happen to be around at that time. If you're not, I'm going to put it up and then you can watch it later on. But it's fun if you're here and we can talk about, the forecast and things like that. All right. But let's talk about this week first, because this is if this might be the most exciting week in August, astrologically speaking. I mean, it's not a competition, right? It's not a competition. Next week might also be the most exciting week celestially. I don't know about down here on Earth, but we have some popping aspects this week. Now, before we get into the things that are happening earlier in the week, I should point out that Mercury goes retrograde on Wednesday. So what you'd want to think about is that we are already deep in the shadow of Mercury retrograde, and all of the confusions and problems that come up with that are already pretty much in full force. I have a video out if you search the videos on this channel on Mercury retrograde, so you can understand that better if you don't know about it. If you do know about it, well, then you understand that we're in the shadow period and we're getting very close to the station. But I have to say that mercurial mishaps multiply right around the stations. So Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're going to look for some of the more dramatic aspects of Mercury going retrograde. He's in his own home sign of Virgo, and you might think it's not going to be such a, maybe it mitigates a little bit because he's in his home sign. It does not seem to mitigate anything. It seems to be quite a dramatic retrograde already, even before the retrograde. Now, on Tuesday, so let's think Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, early part of the week, we have two aspects that are exciting. We have Venus square to Jupiter, and Venus-Jupiter aspects are always good. They really are always. You say, oh, but a square. Yeah, but Venus and Jupiter are such good friends. Venus is out in Leo, which both planets like. Jupiter is in Venus's home sign of Taurus, although he's speaking her language even more than usual. It's really an easy kind of aspect. I would say that a little tension could come up. It's like, do I want to go out? Do I want to stay in? Right? It could be, or do I want to do this or do I want to do that? Maybe too many good opportunities of things to do. Maybe overindulgence is a little bit of a thing, whatever that indulgence thing is, cookies or wine or whatever you want to overindulge in. Yeah, you probably shouldn't overindulge, but it seems like an opportunity for indulgence, if nothing else. I would have to say that because Venus is retrograde, it might be a little bit more subdued than it otherwise would be, but not tremendously so. The thing is, Jupiter-Venus aspects in the signs involved and everything kind of suggest lots of opportunities for socializing, opportunities for romance, opportunities for good things. And yet Venus is retrograde, so it kind of pulls the energy inward. Again, a little bit more of that considering what you want as opposed to actually going out and getting it. Now, if you have a really long memory or you have one of those, like a phone or email address or something like that, you can look back and see what was going on right around June 11th of this year. That's when Venus first squared Jupiter when she was going direct. And now she's squaring him again on the retrograde. And it will be on September 15th that you'll get sort of the end of that story, the final chapter of that story. If you're keeping track of things. Something happens at the early part of the week involving socializing and romance and things like that. Go back and look at your phone and see what was happening right around June 11th and see if it doesn't relate in some way. Give a few days on either side. Okay, so we have that. The other aspect that is really hot as we begin the week is an opposition of Mars to Neptune. Now, Mars-Neptune always gives us two flavors. One is racing beyond the boundaries. This is forget the speed limit kind of thing. Mars is energy and Neptune dissolves boundaries. So we're talking about going beyond the boundaries. And so we have folks that will be just sort of, going off on their own thing in a very determined kind of way. And yet, sometimes going off on a crusade is kind of a Mars Neptune kind of thing. And you can go off on, and crusade isn't really a good term to use, right? But I mean, you can go off on a mission that's well inspired, but you can also go off on one that is just a little bit harebrained. And Venus Jupiter is kind of encouraging this motion. And Mercury retrograde is implying that some folks are going to go off on their mission. They're going to, the crusade is going to be about something that they have just got wrong. They're misreading the situation. That's a thing. But the other side of Mars Neptune is a flattening of energy. So it can spike energy to really, really high levels, but it can also deflate energy because Mars is looking to go forward, and Neptune dissolves boundaries, but sometimes just you run out of gas too. Which will we see? Both. In fact, the same person can easily experience both extremes. Get all excited in the morning, and by evening, you're like, oh, fuck, I'm not interested. Just forget it. I'm going to go to bed. So we could have those spikes in energy high, above average, and below average. And I would say that with the Venus Jupiter, a little bit more tending towards the above average. And of course, we might just simply be getting things wrong because of the Mercury station to retrograde. It's a very, very active beginning of the week, isn't it? Right? Very, very packed in there, an excited kind of energy. So I would say that the best way to handle the Mars Neptune energy is to try to do something. And Mars is in Virgo, strategizing and planning, yeah, but opposite Neptune, probably not so much. But try to do something. It's a very active aspect, right? We have a lot of activity. The moon is waxing. We're heading towards the first quarter moon, which will be in Sagittarius on Friday. And so what we're looking at here is this active energy that is coming out. And if only we can figure out what to do with all this activity. But with Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde and everything else, we're feeling for the action, but not quite certain what we should be doing with it. Recipe for a little bit of, well, you figure out what it's a recipe for. On Wednesday, the day that Mercury stations to retrograde, the sun leaves Leo for Virgo. Yeah. The sun leaves his home sign to begin his annual tour of the lesser signs, and it starts Virgo season. We can, for those of us that are in the Northern Hemisphere, which is just about everybody, by the way, those of us that are in the Northern Hemisphere, it's getting pretty obvious that the days are shortening, and there's sometimes we're hearing terms like crisp in the weather forecast instead of muggy. Yeah, Virgo season, back to school. It's fine. It's fine. But that happens on Wednesday as well. And that really is a shift. That is, apart from my hyperbole, because like Leo season, apart from that, really and truly, it is this waning of summer. It is the movement towards autumn that is really quite apparent. By the way, we're at my latitude and longitude here on Long Island. It's spider season. When the sun goes into Virgo, we get the spiders, the orb weavers, the ones that do the classic, round spider webs and so on. They come out during Virgo season. During Cancer season, we get these little beetles, little beetles, that little brown beetles, they fly around. I digress. That's only here. That's just a freak of this particular latitude and longitude, I'm sure. It's interesting sometimes to see that kind of stuff in your locale. So then we get to the first quarter moon, which is on Thursday. It's in Sagittarius now that the sun is in Virgo. The first quarter moon is in Sagittarius. And it makes for a lighter, more upbeat feel to the end of the week. I think Thursday, Friday night is probably the better night to get out. We have the waxing Sagittarius moon. Now, Saturday night, you're going to have the waxing Capricorn moon, and that's okay. That's okay. But Sagittarius is a little bit more fun than Capricorn. Don't take that badly, Capricorn. So we're heading towards what I would call turnaround time. We have Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, and Uranus all changing directions in the space of about 12 days. And while Jupiter and Uranus don't make too much of a difference when they're retrograde, we're going to be feeling their stations quite intently. But we'll talk about that next week, and we'll talk about that in the September forecast. See you then.